Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey. Hope you're doing good. Karl Bryan coming at you for another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. I'm here today, sans Road Dog. Schedules didn't line up, so I said I would take it from here. Anyways, I wanted to start with a little bit of a follow-up. Last time we got together, I was talking a lot about Flywheels, and then Road Dog said he thought that was the best podcast we had ever done. And I spoke to him afterwards, and he said, yeah, the Flywheel was pretty powerful. One of the ones that I went through and he really loved was a flywheel abyss. And if you can kind of just draw yourself a circle, you'll be able to do this. So learn faster. I think of it as a clock. Okay, at 12 o'clock, you've got learn faster. Okay, then down at 2 o'clock, you've got decisions. 4 o'clock, you've got actions. 6 o'clock, you've got results. 8 o'clock, experiences. 10 o'clock, judgment. And then you go back to 12 o'clock, learn faster, right? So again, a flywheel, when done properly, it speeds up and then it expands. The reason I refer to it as a clock, because it goes in the right direction. But when it goes in the wrong direction, it basically goes counterclockwise, and you want to avoid that, right? Like an example of the coaching industry and why folks in coaching battle to get to seven figures is that their flywheel operates as a clock and it starts going in counterclockwise direction. Let me explain. So you're probably looking for new clients. Okay. So that would be up at 12 o'clock. And then let's go to 3 o'clock. You got a finite amount of time. Okay. 24 hours in a day. You've got 24 hours. I've got 24 hours, but so does Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Mark Cuban, and the rest, Elon Musk, etc. So you get a finite amount of time. So then down at 6 o'clock, you go clients, needs, and wants. So you got, in your clients, there's a certain amount of time and a certain amount of questions, etc., that they're asking, and just, that leads to, so you go to 9 o'clock and you've got customer experience, right? Which then leads to more clients, because when that works well, you get referrals, you get joint venture partners, etc. So that leads to more clients. But the problem is you probably max out at about 20 one-to-one clients. So the clock is going in the right direction until you get to 20. But then when you get 25 clients, 30 clients, Murphy's Law kicks in. Your clients' wants and needs don't diminish as you get busier, right? So in fact, Murphy's Law would kick in and they suddenly want more. Well, they have more wants and needs as you get a little busier and struggle to control that. So again, what happens is your clock starts going in an anti-clockwise direction. So the solution to that, by the way, is having a group coaching program, having leverage and tools. That's why I built Flash coaching software, which is for the small potatoes folks that say $2,500 a year. Then I built group coaching software so that you can manage, so you could put, 25, 50 clients in a group, charge, say, $1,000 a month. That's 25 grand or 50 grand, basically for, assuming you do it every 2 weeks, that would be for 2 hours, right? Obviously 50 grand for 2 hours is pretty exciting. So I built group coaching software for that reason and Flash coaching software for that reason. And that also acts as a flywheel, by the way, because people, they come into your hopper, they join Flash coaching, which basically it allows them to jump on your calendar after they jump through a few hoops, watch a video, and then they ask you questions. Well, the answer and the solution to those questions are often, you need more access, you need higher level guidance, you need more access to me. So they go from Flash, they go to group, and then they go to one-to-one. So if you ever wanted to get like a $60,000 coaching client off of a text message, it will come from group to one-to-one. The mistake that a lot of coaches make is they do one-to-one coaching, They get super busy. They decide they want to go to group coaching and then say, I'm not doing one-to-one anymore. Well, that basically puts a big dent in your flywheel if you think about it, because again, they go from group to one-to-one, and that's where a lot of your highest end clients will come from. So hopefully you're understanding that. So again, it operates as a flywheel. For your clients, why do they buy advertising? It's a flywheel. They want to get leads so they can get prospects. And again, just picture a circle or draw a circle and just write these around it, right? They're trying to get leads so that they can get prospects, so that they can get clients, so that they can get revenue, so they can get profit, so that they can get cash. Okay, profit and cash, two different things. So they can get cash, so that they can get wealthy, so that they can feel free, right? Freedom is ultimately what you're looking for. I'm looking for. Elon Musk is looking for. Maybe not Elon Musk, by the way. That guy, he's a special one. He might be. I saw an interview not long ago, but he says that he will welcome death when it comes. So, that's where Elon Musk is at. So maybe we got to take him out of that example. But I would dare say the chiropractor is looking for freedom with ridiculous predictability. He doesn't use that word. She doesn't use that word, but that's ultimately what they're looking to do. So they buy ads to become free. And then my question is, when they do buy the ad, do they become freer? And a lot of the time, some of the time, absolutely. And there's no bigger fan of advertising than me, by the way. Advertising to profit is a superpower. We've got, as I talk to you here, we have got, advertising running 24/7. So I'm not saying they shouldn't advertise. What I am saying is that they need to have the proper model in place so that it leads them to freedom, so that flywheel expands and speeds up as opposed to goes in the wrong direction. So anywho, I would say that's so flywheels. I think it's really, really powerful for you to be thinking along those lines. And then again, just training your mind to kind of think in circles as opposed to straight lines. And you might find that results for yourself and your clients might go in the right direction. And according to what Road Dog said, he thought that was a very, very powerful concept. And he sent me a couple texts since that. He said that moved the needle a little bit. Like the ultimate respect is not afforded to those who make it, but it's afforded to those who make it and keep it. Right. So again, amateurs want to make it, but pros want to keep it. And then amateurs want to make it, but pros want to multiply it. Right. Again, think of that in the, terms of a flywheel. Like respect is kind of what I'm there going at. Like men kill and sacrifice their entire life for respect. So I grew up in a family with my old man. He was an entrepreneur, but also a professional gambler. So I grew up kind of surrounded by, professional gamblers, like let's just say mafia types. And, he wasn't in the mafia by any stretch of the imagination, but no doubt you could imagine, a professional gambler is going to be hanging around with those types, guys. Like I remember Buffalo as an example. Guy weighed about 350 pounds and he was a character. But, may or may not have been in and out of jail a few times. So anyways, so there you go. My old man never went to jail, by the way, to be clear, but many of his friends did. And I met him. And again, just absolutely some of the greatest guys ever, but respect, like gangs, gangs, and let's just say mafia, like they kill over respect. You ever seen the movie? What's the movie I'm trying to think of with Ray Liotta? Dude, I can't think of it right now. You're probably able to think of it, but the Unbelievable movie, and that's a pretty cool movie if you want to know what that world looks like a little bit, right? Like, but men, like, they place themselves in war, okay, and put themselves on the front line. And they will stay on that front line for one word and one word only, and that is respect, right? To not be seen as a coward and the guy that turned around and ran away, right? Like every inch of their being probably wants to do that, stand up and go the other direction and get themselves out of harm's way. But instead they fight. And what do they fight for? They fight for respect. And I think that people do that. If you think about the average entrepreneur, right? And I'm more, just, respect is a big thing. So as you're talking to clients, I think that may or may not provide you some value, but that's ultimately what they're looking for. But remember, it's respect is afforded. The ultimate respect is afforded to those who make it and keep it, not those who just make it. You should only have to get rich once, is a popular saying. So, and then of course, and Road Dog sent me a few questions, and then I got some other questions here. I'm gonna rip you through, but of course, he said I have to drop my Zen thought. Which again, I think what I often do is I do the exact opposite of Zen. But anyways, I'm doing my best here, folks. I'm trying to chill out a little bit as I get a little bit older. Maybe I'll tell you this. So I was mentoring a guy. He's like, he's 25 years old this week, and he makes all kinds of money, and he's got a job, way up north on the rigs. The problem he's got is that he's away 3 weeks of the month. And he's working like 16, like literally his shift is like 16 hours a day. Just got engaged and he wanted to know how to invest. And my conversation went a little bit like this. The goal is not to be rich and wealthy. The goal is to have a great life. Again, freedom would fall into that, but ultimately the goal is to have a great life. And I said, what you got to do, like investing and whatnot, and, deciding if you're going to leave your job, stay in your job, what you got to do is you got to define what is a great life for you. Right? There's a great life for me and a great life for you and a great life for somebody else will be different, right? And the fact that he's only 25 years old, is going to change that a little bit. I would dare say, right? But one of the hardest things that you will ever do is establish what it is that you want. And that would fall on the lines of, defining what a great life is. And my conversation with him, by the way, went a little bit like he didn't include being away for 3 weeks of the month, in his great life, which I asked him, right? And he's got no kids. And I just said to him, now's the time to take a risk. You got a little bit of money put away and you're talking about investing it. And, if you make, 10% returns, they're going to tell you that you're doing pretty well. But what if he quit the job? He's been successful. He raced professional, motorbikes. The kid's been successful, right? And I said, like, if you quit your job and you started a company, landscaping, painting, roofing, he's a talented guy. I said, you've been successful at everything else. And he's got this job and he's been moved into management at the ripe old age of 25. I don't need to go and ask his boss. He's obviously doing a good job. They believe in him. He's doing a great job. So you tell me, if he started a landscaping company, if he started a roofing company, if he started a cleaning company, if he started a pest control company, would he be successful without meeting him? And I would dare say he's been successful at everything. So why wouldn't he be successful at that? So when you talk about taking a risk, investing in the stock market is something that I'm always, saying is a good idea. And it is. But, given his age, his position and where he's at, I don't know, that was kind of the advice that I went to. Like the paycheck is like heroin for him and so many others, right? Actually, he also told me a story that was part of what I just said, but he works with this guy and his daughter had cancer, right? The guy's stuck up there for 3 weeks and his daughter is in and out of the hospital. And could you imagine just begging for daddy hugs, doing like, the Zoom thing or the FaceTime thing. And she's begging for daddy hugs and he's up there for another 3 weeks. The guy literally had a mental breakdown, the poor bugger. Could you just imagine saying goodbye to your daughter, getting on a plane and knowing you're not coming back for 3 weeks? Oh my God, it's hard just to think about, right? But that guy didn't take the risk when he was young, right? So that's the challenge there. So at the end of the day, I just said to him, look, we got to establish 2 points. The little red arrow, you are here. And then to define the destination you're trying to get to. So think of it as a starting line and a finishing line, right? Like if you were doing a swimming race, if there's no starting line and finishing line, you're not going to know who's winning and who's losing, right? So anyway, so that's, I don't know, Zen just made me think of that conversation. That was a rather meaningful one that may or may not had a tear in it. I'd also say this, like the definition of stupidity. I think I wrote this in an email here recently. And if I didn't, it's about to come out because it's on my hit list. But the definition of stupidity is hurting other people while hurting yourself, right? It's like I've said this a number of times in the past, but like your greatest liability is your greatest strength turned up too loud, right? So as an example, like my wife, one of her greatest strengths by a long way is her softness, right? But If she's too soft, okay, so think of like we have an 11-year-old daughter, right? If she's too soft, no doubt you could see how that could work against my wife, right? So you've got to, and by the way, is that a great example? By the way, don't know, but no, at the end of the day, your greatest strength, or your greatest weakness is your greatest strength, turned up too loud. Like for me, high expectations is a little, I don't know that I would call it a superpower, but that look, high expectations is something that I just have. I've got very high expectations for myself. But guess what? I've also got high expectations for those around me, particularly those that I love. Well, imagine you were someone who I loved. If I turned that up too loud, no doubt you could see how that could be a bad thing, right? Anyway, so I don't know, Zen thought. I think that understanding your personal strengths, weaknesses, can be powerful. Like you might be like a really talented salesperson, right? Well, you turn it up too loud, and could you see um, how that could be a bad thing? Um, so like a talented salesperson could turn it up too loud, make promises with your lips that your butt has to cash, right? Like you convince the wrong person, and make a sale with the wrong person. How does that go in the average coaching space? You know the answer to that, right? Another thing, I did an interview this week with one of my dear friends, John Cornetta, legend of a guy, one of the top, driving traffic. He is literally world class. So anyway, so he asked me a few questions, and then I just jotted them down, and I thought, you know what, that might be a good foundation. I was told that it was a really good interview, so we'll see how we go here. But one of the things he asked me, he said, Carl, you've been successful over a long period of time. That's obvious, that's happened. What drives you to keep going? That was like his opening question, right? And my answer to that, which is, there's a lot of things that keep me going, specifically my clients, like my clients ultimately trying to build coaching companies, which I've done very successfully. Your greatest client is you 5 years ago. Only client better than that is you 10 years ago. Why? Because you can see around corners on their behalf. You know what's coming. You know the pitfalls. Remember, a real mentor can tell you what not to do. That's real power in that. When you've got the legitimate experience, you could guide them. So, as the founder of focus.com, obviously I'm very passionate about that, my clients and them having success. Of course, if you know anything about my story, my big brother committed suicide when I was 16 years old over a business failing. And then my dear mom, basically punished herself every day that day forward, ultimately drank herself to death, the poor thing. And she didn't even, like, when I grew up, like my dad's been in AA, since I was a baby. So my dad doesn't drink and my mom never drank. And then all of a sudden, just the wheels fell off, and I had a front row seat for it through puberty. Right. So that keeps me waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, without an alarm clock. No question. There's two questions that have really driven me for the last 20 years. Question number one is, why did 90% of businesses fail? Question number two would be, what's the commonality in the 10% that achieved success, achieved profitability, and, kind of stand the test of time, right? So those are quite, what leads, why do businesses fall over? It's leads. It's more customers. Like there's three rules in real estate. What are they? Location. If I were to sum that up and say, okay, what are the three rules of business? They would be margin, or maybe again, profit. So that's, at the end of the day, though, that drives me, and that's absolutely a commonality. If you were to, press me, what's the commonality? It's they're not trying to get new customers, but of course they're doing that, right? But they're doing it in an intelligent way and protecting their margins on the way up. How do you do that? You control your costs on the way up. The chiropractor, the dentist, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, they just don't do that, right? I'd also say there's two sayings that I say continually, and might fall into that, but it's, you motivate an idiot, they do stupid things quicker. Okay, again, the chiropractor, the dentist, I just gave an example. It's just more and more and more and more and more. When in actuality, what they should be doing is solidifying everything they're doing. Um, and then there's another one like you can get lucky and make it, but you can't get lucky and keep it. Right. Remember, the ultimate respect is afforded to those not who make it, but those who keep it. Right. So again, you can get lucky and make it, but you can't get lucky and keep it. Anyway, so I could go on, but that's, my clients really drive me. Success in the business coaching industry drive me. The fact that business coaching tends to be a little bit of the wild, wild west, that's the reason why I created software. I don't know what it was a decade ago roughly, and continue to, I got developers working on the software and improving it and upgrading it and moving the needle, on payroll, not subcontractors, but on payroll. So we keep moving. That's kind of what drives me. Another thing that he asked me, he works with a lot of online folks, right? SEO, digital marketers, guys, selling digital products online very successfully. He's, again, John, he's done probably, I don't know what the number is, but it's tens of millions for sure, potentially $100 million of sales online. So he was just asking, you get a virtual company versus a brick and mortar company. Like, what would you say to the virtual operator to lead them towards success? And my answer, and of course, going off the top of my head a little bit, but it's like, you got to operate as a business owner, right? Like, not as an affiliate marketer, not as a digital marketer. You've got to do it as a business, right? Like, remember, location, location, location. Well, in business, it's margins, margins, margins. Like digital marketers, let's just say, they are famous for running in the wrong direction enthusiastically, right? It's more leads, it's more prospects, it's more customers, it's more leads, more leads, more leads. But then the chiropractor gets the leads, and what happens? They drop the ball. Everybody lights a bunch of money on fire, and the digital marketer says, okay, well, the chiropractor didn't know what he was doing. But that's a given. I think that the chiropractor really needs is a proper business model. He needs what we call internally the Jumpstart 12, but he needs the same 12 areas that McDonald's dialed in, and Subway dialed in, and Walmart dialed in, and the biggest companies in the world dialed in are the same 12. The same things that Jay Abraham teaches, and Tony Robbins teaches, and Dan Kennedy teaches. Again, they give them different names, but it falls into the exact same, it's the exact same 12, right? It's McDonald's, real quick. McDonald's, they control costs on the way up. They got, if they want to spend $1 billion on something, they could spend $1 billion in 2 seconds, but they don't spend an extra penny on fries or burgers. They don't need to, right? So they can control costs on the way up. Or if you go to even the McDonald's brothers back way, way, way back in the day, they came up with fast food, right? So fast food, that in itself is a market dominating position. That's a strategy to control costs as much as it is anything else, right? Number 2, they raise their prices, right? Again, do they raise the price of the Big Mac? Look at the price of the Big Mac over the last 50 years, and what you're going to see consistently or year over year is that they raise the price. Do they raise the price by 50%? No, they raise the price by like 2.5% a year consistently. And the same thing with the fries. Market dominating position, which we teach that internally. Think of a unique selling proposition, but it's more powerful, whereby it solves the biggest problem for the ideal client. Okay, so think of the drive-through. That's their market dominating position. Like, they literally invented the drive-through. So basically, just imagine mom, who's their ideal client. It's busy, driving home with the kids, and she could literally go through the drive-through, grab dinner, hand a bag, to the kids in the back seat. And by the time they get home, they've eaten, and she can now have a relaxing night, maybe watch some TV, get some other chores done versus have to, slave over top of the stove. So you deserve a break today. So that's literally where that comes from. So they've got that upsell, cross sell. Do you want fries with that? Do you want me to supersize that? Joint ventures. You go to Walmart, guess what? There's McDonald's. There's McDonald's at Walmart. That's a joint venture. You go to the gas station, there's McDonald's. Does every gas station have McDonald's? The answer is no. But again, that is something that they do at a very, very high level. So it is. So they have got, bundling. Do you want me to turn that into a meal? Do you want, the Happy Meal? So basically, in a nutshell, So I could go on, but it's basically the Jumpstart 12. Could you hear that? My wife just came with my daughter, and she got her tonsils out. We're in Mexico, and she had to get her tonsils out. Where we live, the same person that does the tonsils delivers the babies, does the paperwork at the front desk. So that wasn't going to happen. And Mexico, if you ever have a health issue of any description, I got to tell you, you should be looking at coming to Mexico, because you'll get it done in record time, and it will not be that expensive. And they are, in my opinion, in my experience, 5-star. So anyways, that's where we get into. Hopefully you heard my beautiful little 11-year-old daughter say, "Bye, Daddy." Okay, so McDonald's, ultimately, they have the, Jumpstart 12. They get that 12 areas dialed in, but so do the biggest companies in the world. That's what the chiropractor needs. It's not more leads, more leads, more leads. They need a proper business model, an upsell, a downsell, a cross-sell, control their costs, raise their prices per annum. And then they don't need 50% gains. They need 5%. So what happens is you get a 5% gain in 12 areas. You get a compounding effect, right? So the numbers compound, and there's no use of time. So it's actually called marginal utility theory, by the way. And again, I've talked about this on different podcasts, so I'll leave that there, but it's very, very powerful. You get compounding results without the use for time, and it's absolutely magic. So anyway, I think the digital marketer should become full stack. And the way you become full stack is do something like use our software, use something like a formulaic Jumpstart 12, where you're not just driving leads, but you're actually helping them with the business model on the back end. Because I think that's the way a digital marketer will get a client and keep them for 10 years, the way that we've done internally, versus just keep them for a very short period of time. Anyway, so I would say that, the digital marketer needs to be thinking full stack as opposed to leads. It's like the funnel hackers, right? And the 2 Comma Club. I mean, speak to them, right? They get the 7 figures and they make almost no money 80% of the time, but they get the trophy and they get to walk on stage, and that's the real motivation. But it's a margin issue, right? Like, the language of business is not sales and marketing. The language of business is accounting. That's Warren Buffett speaking, not me. And then accounting, I know it can be a little bit intimidating. It can be pretty damn boring, but it's just math, folks. It's just math, and there's nothing necessary to be intimidating about it. And yeah, so anyway, so that's what I would say there. I think he followed that up with, give me an example of math used properly. And look, here's what I just, you got to train your mind the same way that I believe thinking in flywheels is insanely powerful. Remember, 90% of businesses fail. So the roadmap that they're following is not a very good one, apparently, right? So again, we've got to adjust the sales, or we're not going to have the success that we desire. Your clients aren't going to have the success that they desire. So thinking in percentages is very, very powerful. Again, used this example a million times in the past, but it's very powerful for me when I learned it many years ago, and hopefully it's very powerful for you. But like, you have a client that has 20% margins, and then you increase their margins to 30%. That's not a 10% bump, right? Because 20 to 22 would be 10, 20 to 24 would be 20, 20 to 26 would be 30. So 20 to 30 is a 50% gain. So if your client made $100,000 last year in earnings, in profits, and you help them, no new sales, no Facebook ads, no driving of traffic, no hiring of salespeople, no training. You just go to their margins, and you can do that normally just by cutting out some unnecessary costs and then raising their prices by a small percentage. You could basically get them that 50% gain. If you charge $2,000 a month, 24 grand a year as a frame, I dare say with the average business owner that you work with, just doing that and that alone, just going to their margins and concentrating on, separating them a little bit, you get the jump, and driving traffic. Like, you drive traffic and you get a 2% conversion. If you increase it to 3%, that is not a 1% gain. That is a 50% gain. So if that campaign made 50 grand, it's now making 75,000 with the 1% jump, 2 to 3%. But again, it's a 50% bump. So that's what I would say. I also just talked about Moneyball. If you haven't, a lot of people hadn't watched the movie Moneyball. And if you haven't, as an entrepreneur, I'm going to suggest you do. What is Moneyball? It's just basically Billy Beane was a famous baseball player who became the general manager of the Oakland A's. And then he hired a person that nobody else would ever think about hiring, but he hired a mathematician who I believe studied at Yale. And basically the guy came in and he said, look, we're doing it all wrong. Billy Bean says, what do you mean? Us? And he says, no, the sport of baseball, right? He said, what? He said, we're paying these guys this number of years ago, right? We're paying these guys $20 million a year to hit the ball over the fence and the guys that can hit the cover off the ball. But the problem is that's not the guys who win the games. And look at my 100 spreadsheets and the data I have to back it up. The people that win baseball games are the people who hit singles. Okay, not home runs, but singles. So then if you ask me to reverse engineer that, like for a business owner, that is like, let's just go jumpstart 12, what I just said a minute ago. If you get a 5% bump in all 12 areas, you get like you get like a business that has 500 grand a year and you get a 5% bump in all 12 areas. And let's just assume they've got average margins, right? You put $200,000 of profit in their bank account, which would be like a 400% bump as to where they're at. And by the way, let's assume that you do that horribly, you'll only do half as well. Well, it's a 200% bump and $100,000 in their jeans. And again, when you do a 5% bump, the magic is you don't need to hire people. You don't need to do Facebook ads. You don't need to do new training, etc. Anyway, so that's kind of math. Another one that I explained is like, as an example, you got two products that sell for $1. You buy one for a penny and you buy one for 10 cents. To the untrained mind, that sounds like a 9-cent gap or a 9% improvement. But the reality is the one you buy for a penny is 10 times more profitable than the one you buy for 10 cents, right? It's just, so again, you got two, just to make sure you heard that, you got two items, one you buy for a penny, one you buy for 10 cents. You sell both for $1. The one that you buy for a penny is 10 times more profitable. Margins. The average business owner just not thinking like this. They own a restaurant. If you walk into a restaurant and they have a 5-page menu, stand up, walk out because the food sucks. Don't need to go. Why? Because you're just not able to, the cook's probably not that good. And I don't know how he's going to do, that many different meals. But more importantly, the amount of food required to keep in the freezer in order to satisfy the 5 pages, because people are only ordering one meal at a time, is not good. So anyways, okay. So the restaurant, what they need to do is understand the gross profit margins of the individual dishes, right? So like what meal has the highest gross profit margin? And that's the one that you basically want your waiters and waitresses to be pushing. And by the way, you want to make sure that those meals are also 5-star, really fresh. It might be the lobster, probably not going to be the lobster, by the way, because that's going to be a little bit more expensive. So that might not be where they make the large gross profit margin, but like the steak, mashed potatoes, and carrots as an example, make a really, really good profit on that. Well, that's the meal that they should be pushing. But frankly, I don't need to meet the entrepreneur, the restaurant owner, to know that he doesn't know the gross profit margin of the individual meals. And if you've ever seen Gordon Ramsay operate, he goes into a restaurant. The first thing he does is he looks at every individual meal and he works out exactly what this costs to make. And then he understands exactly how much they charge. And what he's really doing is it's a margin exercise. So anyways, that's what I would, that's what I probably would say to that question. And then, actually this needs to fall into it. You get 20% margins. Your client does, they earn $1. How much do they keep? Hopefully it's obvious, but the answer is 20 cents. Okay. If you go to their expenses and you save them $1, how much do they keep? And the answer is 100 cents. That should be, you know what I mean? Like, again, where's a smarter place to start when you're trying to find your $24,000 or your $12,000 or your $60,000 of coaching and consulting fees? And I would dare say a really good place to start, or certainly one of the first places to start, is just going to controlling costs and saving them a few bucks. And that doesn't mean ruling everything out. That means negotiation. Just here's my acid test of expenses. What you do is you go to every individual line item that they have as an expense. It will fall in their P&L, just for a little FYI. And the more itemized it is, the better it is. But you just ask two questions. Does it get a client? Does it keep a client? Does it get a client? Does it keep a client? Does it get a client? Does it keep a client? Does it get a client? Does it keep a client? So, there's two rules of investing, right? Rule number one, don't lose money. Rule number two, see rule number one, right? That's Warren Buffett 101. Well, we've got two rules at focus.com. Guess what they are? Rule number one, you got to get clients. Rule number two, you got to keep those clients. That's Ford, Tesla, Amazon.com. It's focus.com. That's your company. That's your client's company. Got to keep it simple, stupid, right? So that's how you can decide what expenses can go. That's the asset test. If it doesn't bring in a client or keep a client, that doesn't mean that everything will be ruled out that doesn't fall into that, but they're going to have to fight you for it. They're going to have to give you a story. They're going to have to convince you that that magazine subscription should be continued. And by the way, you could also negotiate, right? Like, again, go to their suppliers, go to the landlord, et cetera, and negotiate. You save them, $1,000 a month on an individual expense. That's $12,000 a year. That entire $12,000 goes straight into your client's bank account and stays. So anyway, so that's, just when thinking about numbers and whatnot and, digital marketers, I don't think they're thinking like this. What I think they're thinking of is leads, traffic. So anyways, and there's another, and I'm not going to go deep into this, but if you've got a business that's profitable, but they got no cash, we run a 4-day training on how to read financial statements and find your coaching fees before they get going. But basically that individual, there's 5 specific areas where you'll be able to find the cash, right? 5 specific areas and not a 6th, not only 4, there's 5 areas. Anyway, so translation, finish that. Profit and margin are the dominoes that knock over all the other dominoes. So if I was a digital marketer, an online marketer, I would be suggesting that you operate like a marketer, as I would the chiropractor, the dentist, et cetera, and a business coach and a business consultant. But I would be operating like a business, and a business needs to protect its margins on the way up because they get big and then fall over, because the bigger you get, the more vulnerable you get as a general rule. The solution to that is to protect margins on the way up. You did 500 grand last year, and then you're going to do $1 million next year. I want to see your margins at 500 grand, and then I want to see your margins at $1 million, and then I'll be able to tell you if you're doing a good job, right? So I need to have comparables. I've got to be able to see, both points. And by the way, again, there's a potential of you could have certain margins at 500 grand and then have larger margins at $1 million. Now, this is success. This is high 5, high 10 stuff. And again, I don't think the average business consultant and the average digital marketer are thinking like this generally, and I would be suggesting that. And then he kind of, I think he just finished it off, and he just asked me for like Jedi mind tricks, right? Like, let's talk about the mental game and the best mental advice that I could give. And hopefully you read my daily email, and I drop this kind of stuff every single day. Because again, the ultimate hack in business is not a strategy. It's not a tactic. It's not a funnel. What it is it's a higher level of thinking, right? Elon Musk just thinks at a higher level than the others, and solving big problems would be part of that. But at the end of the day, the ultimate hack is a level of thinking, right? So your comfort zone just kills your potential. Operating under stress, your ability to succeed is dictated by your ability to operate profitably under stress, right? And again, profitably being strategic, let's say. But most people, like they want their comfort zone. They'll fight for their comfort zone. Your clients, you've experienced this if you've had a number of clients, they fight for their comfort zone like nothing else, right? Like one of the things I said to John, like, think about like a video game. If a video game was easy, you would turn it off. The reason you play a video game is because it's hard. It's the difficulty that makes it actually fun. Like the strongest trees, where do they grow? They grow in the worst weather. Right? You go way, way, way up north, and this is where you're going to find your strongest trees, right? Like, you want to build skateboards and build a killer skateboard. Well, I got to tell you go as far up north in the coldest weather you possibly can, and this is the wood that you want to be using for your skateboard or your desk or your tables, etc. It's like nobody's ever going to wait in line for a roller coaster that's flat, right? It's the ups and the downs that make it fun. And I think in business, if you're able to manage your psychology and understanding that your ability to operate under stress profitably dictates your level of success, dictates your client's level of success, you got to expect it. And then you got to kind of, I don't know, looking forward to it. I also don't want to be unrealistic here because I understand the trials and tribulations that can go with entrepreneurship. But you gotta ride the roller coaster. The downs, you talk about the scariest part when the roller coaster is down or done, complete, right? Then you go, that it's like the 12-year-old kid who says, Dad, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And then what does he do? He gets to the other. Dad says, you're going. We're already in line. You're bloody going. This is expectations, right? One of the greatest gifts you can give to a child, in my opinion, is high expectations. Well, the kid wants to bail out of the roller coaster. Dad says, you're going, you're going, you're going. What happens when they jump on the roller coaster? They do it. They get to the other side, and the kid says, Daddy, can we do it again, please? Right? So make that like business, but comfort zone, that's something you got to be cautious of. The other thing, they're all trying to give me a room of 100 entrepreneurs. I'll introduce you to 80 people with the goal of hitting $1 million this year, right? Again, bad goal. Hit your goal and lose money. Hit your goal and make a small amount of money. Hit your goal and have really tight margins and be very vulnerable. It's a big reason why businesses fail. Like airplanes crash from pilot error, not mechanical issues, right? Well, guess what? Businesses fail from owner error, not from things like industry conditions and, things outside of their control. If you want to have insane speed, you got to have an incredible amount of clarity, right? Insane speed equals incredible clarity. Again, assume I'm speaking directly to a digital marketer and online kind of operator. I will tell you that they fall victim to the multiple streams of income like nobody else. Multiple streams of income. And again, if you followed any of my stuff, you've heard me talk about this, but this is not the roadmap that you should be following. The better roadmap is to put what did Airbnb do, Facebook do, Amazon.com do, as in Bezos, Zuckerberg, etc. They put all their eggs in one basket and then watch that basket very, very closely. You should be thinking about doing this, right? Multiple streams of income. And by the way, what's the solution to that? Look, and I'm not, again, having some real estate on, I've got real estate, right? Get rents out. Well, you got to get one stream of income above 5 million before I would even be willing to talk to you as my client about the second stream of income, right? So it's like it rhymes with the second business eats the first, but the real hack is that the second business feeds the first. Right? Very important. The second business needs to feed the first. So a templated example of that is like AWS, right? Amazon Web Services feeds Amazon.com. How did they come up with that? They just went to their P&L, they went to their expenses and said, where do we spend the most money? And they went, web services. And then he said, well, let's start a company and become our own client and then offer those to other people. And as you know, it's a success. The results are in. It's official, right? Official. Anyway, so putting all your the multiple streams of income there. I really want to. You need the different streams of income to feed one. Okay, then that's fine. But that's not the way most people do it. They start flipping houses or doing Airbnb on the side, start up a different business and try to manage two. Right, like. Just assume that you're not Elon Musk. Assume that your client is not Elon Musk. All eggs in one basket, and then stare at that damn basket. Another thing would be standards versus goals, right? You got to set standards. You're not walking on the moon. You're walking on the floor. You got to protect your downside. You got to protect your downside. Like, thinking like an amateur versus a pro. Amateurs want to make it. Pros want to multiply it. Amateurs think of what could go right. Pros think of what could go wrong, right? So, you don't need more focus. You need less distractions. Your client doesn't need more focus. They need less distractions. You eliminate those distractions, their phone, the social media, the planning, what is it? Ready, aim, fire. And they get stuck in the ready and the aim and then never fire. So the story goes that, ready, fire, aim is a better roadmap, right? Again, you gotta come back to the flywheel that I talked about at the beginning, right? Where you want to be able to learn faster, right? Like you learn faster, and then you go to decisions, and then you go to actions, and you go to results, and then you go to experiences, and then you go at better judgment, and that allows you to learn faster. So it's success is not dictated by the amount of time you spend in something. Success is dictated, mastery. Let's use mastery. Elite abilities, okay? Elite skill level is not dictated by time. It is dictated by reps, right? Again, so if you get more reps, what Tony Robbins said, he was following Jim Rohn around, and I think Jim Rohn was doing like a talk every week or every 2 weeks. And then Tony Robbins said, well, I'm going to do 3 a day. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start doing 3 a day. Imagine how good I'm going to get at it. And apparently it worked out pretty well. So anyway, so that, there you go. That's what I've got for today. Hope you guys appreciate that. I hope you see a little bit of value. And I will look forward to seeing you on the next podcast.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.